A short story. It was the spring of 2015. I had just moved from Tesla to a smaller startup in the clean tech space as well. It was in the city of San Diego, a city known for serves and sales. Something interesting, while working for the startup, I realized the need for tools and expertise in the renewable space was very, very niche. The big companies like Tesla did have them, the smaller startups struggled to have them. I thought for myself, there's a big opportunity here. What do I go and do about it? So I decided to pick my phone, walking along the water. I remember this phone call pretty vividly. I spoke to a friend, trying to convince her to come on board with the idea. All I told her was, there's a huge gap in the market. I think I can solve for that expertise. And the first question that came about was, why do you think we would fail? It was just me trying to convince myself, and more so the other person on the other end of the phone as well. So the first thing unconsciously that came out of my mind, I told her, the only reason we would probably fail is poor execution. I didn't know what that meant back then, but today, a decade later, having built a 100 crore company, I think there's some conviction to come here and tell you what are the factors with some insights that could lead to poor execution and how do you go about working around it. Welcome to my world. The world of business, 90% of the companies fail within the first 10 years. This is a very, very cliched, commonly used terminology out there. But what's not cliched is when you dig deep and look at the stats. When you look at the numbers, so this is data sets, overlapping data sets projected in a particular fashion. All this says is you look at the commonalities of everything out there. Surprisingly, one simple factor that pops out for the reasons startups fail is poor execution. And there are different ways you go about solving it in different stages of a company. Most companies, most institutes go through 3 different stages: stabilize, scale up, and diversification. So picking the first stage, during the stage of stabilizing a startup, or any idea for that matter, people will tell you perseverance is important, but I would only partially agree to it. What I think is more important is pivotal persistence. And me being an avid ocean enthusiast, sailing and surfing draws great parallels to business for me. So there's something for people who have sailed and love sailing. There's a concept in sailing called a no-go zone, which is a 45-degree angle on a dead wind. And all that means is you cannot sail yourself into that particular region. So how do you go about it? Despite your destination being on the other end, you find a way to go around the particular zone. And that's the same thing in business. Now, drawing parallels back from sailing to my company, the first thing we did when we started off was we wanted to provide expertise for production analysis for different companies. One kind of an expertise that we thought the industry needed. But surprisingly, that's not what the industry needed. And very soon we realized that we tried to provide engineering expertise, detailed engineering expertise for the same sector of clients. And for the next 2 years, we scaled up really, really well. And that's a mistake that a lot of people do. When they get into a startup, perseverance is important. They understand it in a very different context and try to go about solving the same problem despite the market telling them that's not what the market needs. So it's not persistence, it's pivotal persistence that's important. The second stage of any startup, scale up. Again, what would people tell? Focus on growth. Now that you have stabilized yourself, go about doing anything you have to do to grow. It doesn't matter what you choose. But I would, again, only partially agree to it. What I think is more important is focused growth. You can go about bringing in new products, new ideas, new services, different expertise, but that's not the time for that. When you're looking to grow a company, very similar to sailing, once you know your direction, you know where you're heading, or at least an interim destination, what do? Once you've picked the wind, you go about following a particular designated path. And that's the same thing with business. Drawing references back to the company, when we started off, things went pretty well for the first 2 years. Me being just myself, I thought, there's so much more we can do. Let's get into the Indian market. Let's get in, provide different type of expertise which had nothing to do with our core business. And it hurt us pretty hard. So 2017 to 2019, we did that. 2019, we decided consciously to pull back from all of that. Focus only on what the company intended to do initially. That, for the next 4 years, resulted in 100% year-over-year growth, very consistently. So, like I said, it's not growth, it's focused growth that's important during the second phase of a business. The third stage of any business is diversification. What people will tell you, now you go about expanding, go about finding different ways that you need to solve different sorts of problems. Again, I would only partially agree. It's decentralized diversification that's important in stage 3 of any company or institution. What do I mean by that? Sailing is a great example again. So when you sail a smaller boat or take a smaller boat out into the waters, it's very different. But the minute you take a larger boat, the crews need to operate independently of each other. Every crew has an assignment. They solve for problems by themselves as you go about sailing in the ocean. And the same thing draws good parallels in business as well. We scaled up pretty well. We were ready to diversify. And what did we do initially? It was just me and my founders trying to spend time on helping the company grow. But that did not make sense at all. So then we introduced a platform called Project ORB3, or a Shark Tank of sorts within the company. And what that did, it gave opportunities to different people within the company to come up and solve for ideas for our own mission. So there were 250, 300 different people within our company coming up with ideas and solving for one common problem in different sorts of ways. And also coming up with innovative solutions. What happened? We came up with new business units. We launched entirely new businesses in very different markets. And the company started growing all by itself without efforts from my end, which is beautiful because that's a dream of any founder. You being able to step back, being able to build a platform where anybody and everybody can come and grow the company. So, in short, what is the art of execution? According to me, the art of execution is the ability to provide different platforms during different stages of the company for good people to come and do great things. Thank you.